Hi, welcome back in another video from The Witcher Old World. Today we're gonna paint Arrakas. It's a pretty simple mini, mainly with a grey and green color scheme, apart from the front part of it, the wee flower shaped mouth, which, as you can see on the reference cards, is kind of like a bluish and red color tone. The mini was primed with the Citadel Grey Primer, and in the next few steps I will show you how to have a nice effect and how to have that mini presented nicely on your board table. First we're gonna start with the mix of two colors, which is the Waga's Flesh and the Mephiston Red. I mix it pretty much 50-50 just to get a bit of a kind of gray tone, green color, and we're gonna paint the mini all over it, apart from the base obviously, but I started with the legs, and then I'm gonna move further to paint the rest of that model. But the whole idea is that once we move further, we're gonna do a bit of a wet blending with the pure Waga Flesh green, just to have a nice transition from the top to the bottom. As you can see, while I'm painting the abdomen part, I'm using a bit watery paint, and I'm using a size 2 brush just to do it quickly before that paint settles down. Then I apply pure green tone, the Waga Flesh, on it, and do a bit of a wet blending. So on the top and the side part of it, I'm trying to brighten that gray tone with that green color. I put a little bit of that pure green on the legs as well. Next I move into the brown tone, the Morvan brown, just to paint the wee branches on the base underneath the mini. You don't have to be so neat on this part, we're gonna paint it all over around it again later on. For a couple of stones that are on the base, I'm using the German Grey from Vallejo. There is few rocks beside his legs, and there's a big one just underneath. So then we're gonna do a bit of a dry brushing later on with different gray tones as well. I have decided that the mini will be based on a kind of forest base, so I'm using the Castellan green and Ogre Common, the mix of those two colors, just to have a kind of like a foresty moss all around those rocks. The rocks towards the end will have a bit of a moss effect put it as well, just to have a kind of greenish tone base, as you can see on the reference card as well. Now his mouth we're gonna cover with the pure white color that will give us a bit of a brighter background before we put the actual coloring scheme on it. So just cover it with the pure white It could be from Citadel as I use it, but you can use any other paint you wish, as long as it will be pretty bright. It could be even very light gray, but ideally we'd cover it with the white tone. Now we're switching to the gray tone. We're gonna use the Stone Vermin Fur for dry brushing on the rocks under the Mini. We're gonna be adding a bit of ivory from Vallejo to have a lighter tone as well. So first of all, firmly we're gonna put the Stone Vermin Fur, and then we're gonna mix this color with a bit of ivory from Vallejo and do another lighter touch with the brighter tone. But finally, for the brightest highlight, I will be using a pure ivory, but it's mainly to do the few touches on the top of those rocks. As you can see now, I'm doing very, very bright dry brushing, just to have a nice effect on the edges. Now we're switching to the washing, so I'm using the two tones, black and green, which is the Biel-Tan green and the Noon Oil from Citadel, mixing pretty much 50-50 and cover the whole Arachas, the body and the legs, everything apart from his mouth will be covered in that color. And then the pure Noon Oil, pure black wash go into the rocks as well. Next, for the rest of the base, we're gonna be using the mix of the Biel-Tan green and Agrax Earthshade, mix pretty much 50-50, and we cover the base all around the rocks, except obviously the timber parts, the branches that are underneath. While the base is drying, we can switch to coloring his mouth. So we're gonna start with the Wild Rider Red from Citadel, and I add a bit of a glaze medium just to thin that color a bit, and again to gain the extra time for a bit of a wet blending, so we can have a nice blending effect. As you can see, I covered a whole lot with the thin layer of that red tone, and then I will be blending a little bit of white, as well in few areas. We do a bit of a wet blending just to brighten it up a bit, especially in the kind of areas that you can see that the light might brighten up. We're also gonna add a bit of a bit darker red tone, the Mephiston red, and we're gonna put it on the edges of that, let's call it flower, the flowered mouth, just a bit of a put a bit of a contrast there. Don't worry if you're doing that, if the brush go a bit over it, everything, it's still fixable, so you can use your Wild Rider Red tone as well to fix in any mistakes. You can also get a bit of a white to to brighten up whatever is going wrong. As you can see, I had a bit of an extra Mephiston red in front, but using the glaze medium you can always easily fix those things as long as the paint is still wet. I also want the inner wheel in that flower a bit darker, so I'm also using the Mephiston red just to darken this tone a bit more. And as you can see, I do a further white tone at the bottom leaf, just to make that way brighter. This is our first step of our flower, and then once that dry off, we will be continue later on with some few different tones, just to add a bit of depth into it as well. When you're using the glaze medium, remember that the drying time is quite long, so use that time for something else. In that case, while those were drying, I used the shade, the Rayclay and Flash shade, just to put a bit of on that timber on the base in the meantime. As you notice on the reference cards, on his mouth we had a bit of a blue stain, so I used the Macrage blue. Again, I thinned that a bit with a bit of a glaze medium, just to extend that drying time, so I have a bit of a flexibility while I'm applying this paint on the Mini. Then I'm mixing a tiny bit of the Mephiston red with this blue tone, just to do a bit of darken center of that mouth. We're gonna do a further darkening onto the center and do a nice blending of those two colors. While this part is drying, we do the further dry brushing on the rocks underneath. As I said earlier on, I will be using a pure ivory from Vallejo, but just a tiny bit on the top edges of it. We're not gonna put too much. We don't want that to be too bright. Then we're gonna put a bit of a wash into his mouth. In this case, I'm using the red tone from the Army Painter, which I think is the kind of the nicest red tone, the nicest red shade you can get. Now we're switching to the Ogryn Common. We're gonna do a bit of a dry brushing on the sides of the base, the part when we want to have that moss effect. Once that's done, we're gonna back to his mouth and we're gonna get the Troll Slayer orange. Again, we're gonna mix with a bit of a medium and a tiny bit of the Wild Rider red, and we're gonna do a bit of a highlighting on his mouth. I'm gonna be go very gently with it. Try not to cover the recesses. There's few lines in there. The recesses line, as you can see, I did put a bit too much paint of it, so I had to remove it a bit. Just highlight a bit on the leaves on the side. And then that should bring the nice effect. Next we're gonna do a bit of a highlighting, the dry brushing on of his body and legs. I'm using the Wagga Flash and the Avalanche Sunset. Initially we start with the green tone with the tiny bit of the yellow, but as we go further we will be adding more and more of the yellow tone to the green, just to have the nice highlighting effect. So as you can see, I started initially with a very tiny bit of the yellow, and I'm adding a wee bit more yellow, and again I'm doing only the top parts of it, especially on the legs, only the top parts. Then the body itself, we're doing the top and the sides, but as we move on and we'll be brightening this tone up, we're gonna be moving to the higher parts only. As you can see now, I'm putting this green color far brighter than we had initially. Just make sure you dry your brush firmly, so you're not gonna overload that paint into the recesses. And again, we mainly focus on the top part of the Mini. At this point, as you can see, I'm adding more yellow, so we're gonna bring that tone further, and our final stage will be a pure yellow, but with the pure yellow we're gonna do it very gently on the top only. Now I am applying a pure yellow tone, but very gently from the top, very few touches of the brush, and this is how the Mini presents so far. I hope you enjoyed so far, and please continue watching my video. Now I do a bit of work with the Naggaroth Night and the Screamer Pink. I thought that we add something extra so the Mini won't be too boring, and we're gonna do the gloves a little bit colorish. So I'm starting the dry brushing with the Naggaroth Night. I'm doing a gently dry brushing on those gloves, and then I'm mixing this purplish tone with the pink one, the Screamer Pink. And we'll do the further dry brushing just to have that kind of like a purpley pink effect on those. Once we get those two base colors dry brush, I will be lighting this tone with the ivory from Vallejo, and do a further highlighting with the brighter tone, and towards the end we will be using a firmly light pink color. I hope you enjoy that effect. I thought that it will be nice to do something extra on that mini, as it's very kind of green, so it will add a bit of a additional touch into it. As you can see now, it's firmly light pink, and towards the end we're gonna add furthermore of the ivory as well. So now we add in a additional part of the ivory to reach our brightest tone. Then I have decided to do a bit of that highlighting on his legs, just to reflect the possible light coming on them, but we're doing gently only on the top part of it. So this is the color scheme we use. So as you can see, we start with the purple, then we mix the purple with the pink. Eventually we get to the light pink and the very bright pinky creamy color towards the end. So this is how our mini present, and then we're gonna do a bit of a shading all over it using the Reikland flash shade. We cover the whole mini all over again, just to blend all those colors, obviously apart from his mouth. Now we're gonna do a bit of a highlighting on the we timber. So we're back to our previous brown color, lighten up with a little bit of a yellow, and potentially you can add the ivory as well. Then I have decided to do a bit of a moss effect on the rocks, so I got a mix of the technical paint from Citadel, the Hexfire Flame, mixed with the Ogreen Camo and a bit of a medium as well, and we do a very gentle touch on the rocks, and then we remove the paint from the brush and spread it in few spots on the rocks, just to bring that tiny effect of the moss growing on the rocks. For the rim of the base, I'm using the German Grey, as you've seen probably on my previous video. Then just to bring the extra bit into the base, I put some bushes from the Army Painter, mixed a few different colors just to have that nice effect of the low forest. Again, I glued them to the base using the PVA glue. And the final touch is the blood. Again, the ready-to-go blood from Citadel I put on one of his gloves, and a little bit on the base itself, just few drops on the base, looking like they drop off him. and that should be pretty much it. I hope you like this mini, I hope you like this video. If so, please give a thumb up and don't forget to subscribe my channel so you're not gonna miss any further video. So thanks again for watching, and I hope I will see you next time. Take care, bye bye.